Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on AI and artistic editing. If you haven't already, we would love for you to jump into the chat, tell us where you are joining us from and what type of photography you do. We already have quite a few people that have let us know. We have people from LA, Wisconsin, Wyoming, Canada. We are so glad that you guys are here. Today, I'm going to be hosting your webinar. My name is Betsy. I'm part of the Zenfolio team. And alongside me, I also have my fellow Zenfolio team member, Amanda. Amanda is going to be our moderator, and she'll be helping to manage the chat. So if you have any questions today during the session, please go ahead and drop them in the Q&A section of the chat. You should see that you have a chat section and a Q&A. That'll help us keep all the questions organized. And then today, at the end of the webinar, we're going to take time to go through those questions, make sure that as many of them get answered as we can go through. So today's webinar is with our friend and the amazing photographer and educator, Judy Reinford. Judy is a pet and equine photographer with a BA in communication design and fine art photography. She also holds the prestigious titles of Master Photographer, Master Artist, and Master Craftsmen with the Professional Photographers of America. And as an educator, her teaching seminars have gained national attention, attracting attendees to the PPA community partners and photography guilds all across the country. She also provides numerous photo editing courses through her website, which is education.judyreinfordphotography.com. We'll be providing a link for you later on in the webinar. In 2023, Judy embraced the future by becoming an educator in the field of AI. She's been teaching her students to explore how AI can enhance the creative process and push the boundaries of traditional photography and digital art. We couldn't be more thrilled to have Judy teaching on this topic with us today, and I'm confident that you're going to walk away really inspired. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Judy, you have got the content that we have all been waiting for. Let's dive in.
All right, guys. So I see a lot of people here that do different types of photography. We are going to today cover a little bit about this related to animals. But on Saturday, I have a workshop that will cover humans as well. Let me share my screen. All right, guys. So today I'm going to talk to you about mostly Krea AI, 100% Krea AI, actually. Little bit about me. This is kind of my last 10 years, give or take a little bit of time here, that I kind of dove into really kind of embracing creative photography and going after different degrees and awards. When I was a little kid in the early 70s, I loved fashion. I loved animals. I loved horseback riding. And oddly enough, I still do. So this was 48 years later. I haven't ridden in the past year or so, but I was riding. I still do go to zoos, and I love everything about animals. So for many years, I did traditional composites. The amount of time to create them was not cost effective. So offering them to clients wasn't really something that I felt I could fit into my schedule. There was an image I did for somebody during COVID of their two dogs, and I swear it took me over 200 hours. I think I made $3 an hour till I was all said and done because of the amount of work that it went into it. So I kind of put composites for clients on the back burner for a while. But I want to kind of show you what kind of images took this kind of time, just so you have an idea. I mean, some of you probably already do. I saw a lot of PPA members in the chat. So this image was a composite. It took over 100 hours. It was when I was earning my degree of Master Artist through PPA. So this was the final of the composited work. It was painted in Photoshop. There was a lot that went into this. For instance, here's the originals, and there's that fence line surrounding the tent, and I had to meticulously clone that out. This is way before generative fill. This is way before the remove tool. This is when you had to physically go in and clone things out. I found a carousel horse that I really liked, but unfortunately, it was also a very difficult extraction. And then I photographed my dog in the studio at exactly the same angle and same wide angle and depth of field as the carousel horse. The little carousel had this ticket booth blocking the little round thing that you can sit in on the carousel. And then I found this bridge. So all of that, went into creating this image. And, if a client said to me, "Oh, I want that of my dog," I'd be like, "That's great. It's going to cost you $50,000." And they would walk away because nobody's going to pay that. So, but in all honesty, these things take a lot of time until recently. So this was another one that also took a ton of time. And I thought, well, if I kept a blank image that has everything done except the child and the dog and the lantern, with the light are not in the image, maybe I could offer this to clients. But honestly, I never did. I just put it aside. Here's the originals of this. I put it aside until I could hopefully someday figure out a faster way to create fairy tale art, composites, paintings of pets, paintings of kids, whatever the case may be, in a quicker way. So enter AI. In 2022, I learned Discord and Midjourney. I wasn't thrilled with using Discord. It was a little tricky to use Discord. And for Midjourney, you had to know how to write prompts. So my creative side was excited about this, but my non-creative side didn't understand all the dash dash chaos, dash dash weird, all the things you had to know in Midjourney to get anywhere. And I remember the very first image I created in Midjourney was awful, and I thought, what is all the buzz about? But time went by and the computers learned, and enter December 2023, I stumbled upon a program that quietly was making some traction in the AI market. Enter Krea AI. So Krea AI just hit the news 3 days ago. They raised $83 million to go forward and become like a full-fledged, whatever you want to call it. I didn't even realize that I was working on a platform that was a startup and that the people that started it were working out of somebody's house. But now they're going forward. They raised the money. And this platform is, in my opinion, out of all the platforms I've tried, and I've tried them all, this one does the best at training a subject, training a style if you want a painterly style, and training an object if you are someone who photographs like perfume bottles or wine bottles, things like that. So this is Krea AI. And if you go to their homepage, I did this screenshot at 8 a.m. this morning. I was waiting till the last minute thinking there wouldn't be any more changes because they had a complete website overhaul last week. And lo and behold, this homepage looks a little different now, a couple hours later, than it did at 8 a.m. today. So when you go to the website, this area here with these links has changed slightly. And there's another area up here you're going to see that's different. So when you go into these type of programs, you have to embrace change. So if you're somebody that doesn't like change, this type of work is going to help you get over that because things change hourly. I was actually teaching last year and I saw something on the website in the hotel room before I went down to start teaching. And 20 minutes later, I was excited to show my class and it was already different when I got down to the classroom. So like many programs, there were limitations and matching a subject was impossible, but it was great for adding detail to AI art from other platforms. So originally I used Krea to enhance images I was generating in Firefly. I found that the Firefly images just didn't have the zest that I had hoped that they would generate. And I would bring them into the Krea Enhance model and add like more texture and crunchiness and, depth of field or whatever the case may be to make them a much more usable new background to put a dog on or something like that. like you couldn't composite yet at the time. Like this was probably about a year ago, but you could do things with the program that nobody else was doing. And I kind of liked the direction they were going, but I had no idea how far they were going until November 2024. And this is when Krea exploded. I went on the website to actually look for something because I was teaching a class in December, and all of a sudden there were all these new things you could do. And I was like, wait a minute, when did this happen? I hadn't been on the website in a whole 2 weeks and things had changed dramatically. So in the middle of all this, I was working on my yearly Christmas card, which is kind of a thing that people wait for and are excited about. I have like 17 veterinarians on my card list. Over the years, I've had a lot of dogs. Right now we have 7 Pomeranians, and this was the Christmas card this year. And what was really, really exciting to me about Krea was anybody that has dogs knows there's no way these 7 dogs would pose on this chair together. Just not happening, right? Well, with Krea, not only could I easily do this composite, but I could train my chair so that I could place my chair in a scene. And then lo and behold, all I had to do now was overlay everything with the 3 dogs in the back and then the dogs in the front kind of composited together. So these were all the images I worked from. And then adding a little enhancing and the enhance mode, I was able to get this final result, which is under their oil paint filter, which is gorgeous. So I was like, this is great. And I was in the middle of setting up a class I run every year on December 30th. It's a great day to take a class. And I was like, this is great. Brand new content I can show people. So how can you make money with AI and provide an amazing service to your clients? And a lot of this today is based on pet clients, but there are so many avenues that you can use this for: child's portraits, families that maybe have an out of town relative that they want incorporated into a photo, etc., things like that. So a new era of editing and pet art creation has burst. And the first thing that I found really exciting about this technology was memorial pet art. So, as a pet photographer, it's actually really common for a client to call you up and say, my dog is being put to sleep this week. We want a photo. Well, personally, like as a pet owner, I don't want photos taken that week. I want a piece of artwork from the heyday, the good years, like years 2 through 6 or something. I always try to encourage clients to not do that because they're going to remember that photo was taken that week and it's a bad memory. So I had a client who they had bought a gift card November of 2019, and then we all know how that went. And the gift card sat for a few years, and they finally reached out to me this past fall, or actually last summer, to do something this past fall of their 2 dogs. So this is Dolphin and Annie. And yes, this is a raw, like behind the scenes, like hot mess photo of this photo session. The paper was ripped the first 5 minutes of photographing these dogs. And the sad thing was, Chloe, their 3rd dog, had passed away. So this was weighing on me, and I was learning this new software exactly at the same time. And I had created this image. This was the final image of Dolphin and Annie. And I was like, if only I could have Chloe in this somehow, like on the chair as a second, print or something like that. They had already ordered a huge order, folio boxes, wall art, all this stuff. And I was like, I really want to see if I can do this with Chloe. So I reached out to the dad and, I'm like, can you send me some cell phone photos? So like I said, sadly, their other dog, Chloe, had passed away. And in Krea, you can train an object, a character, or a style. So he sent me his awful, awful cell phone photos. And we joke about it because they were really bad. And he does photography like for fun. He does street photography. But like most pet owners, they shoot their dogs from 45 degrees above the dog. They never get down on the ground with the dog. Only pet photographers do that. So this is what he sent me of Chloe. And I'm like, wow, this is, oh my gosh, what just happened? Can you see me?
Yes, I can still see you, Judy. I think that one of your screens closed out, but you're still sharing.
I think the internet blinked for a minute. Bear with me. Sorry about that, guys. I lost Keynote. Let me just go grab the Keynote folder. There was a flicker. We have some bad weather today, so let me grab. You're still seeing my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me get back to Keynote. All right. All right. Oh, and it went right back to where we were. That's awesome. That's where we were, right?
You got it. Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So here's these photos of Chloe, these bad photos of Chloe. And this is what a training model looks like. Now, it picked up text from one of the photos and then it put it into the training model. It put the remote control in her mouth, which is hysterical because anybody with a large dog knows they do that. But we didn't even have a photo of that in the mix. But when I saw that, I thought that was really funny. So this is Chloe trained. And remember my chair? So Annie and Dolphin were on the chair. So when I used Krea, I told it to put a golden retriever sitting on a brown leather chair on a gray background because I wanted to match that awful raw photo of Chloe and Anna so that of Dolphin and Anna. So when I made Chloe, I could then edit it the same way I edited the one of the two of them. So I worked on this for a couple minutes. And then when you start to see one that you think is close to what you need, you can kind of train from that image so that it kind of hones it in a little bit. And lo and behold, here it was. Now, because this wasn't my dog, I texted the dad. The dad knew about this. We were surprising the mom. And I texted him and I'm like, you got to tell me, does this look like Chloe? I made sure there was a dot on her nose that was in some of the photos of her. I made sure I left that there. It's funny, like things that we used to like always take out of photos, now we leave in to make them more believable. 10 years ago, I probably would have said, do you want me to clone that out? But he said yes. He was like, she is going to love this. So remember, there's the one of Annie and Dolphin, and here's Chloe. So this was the second print in an 11 by 14 folio box. And the first print was Anna and Dolphin. And so she's staring at Anna and Dolphin in their dining room, and the whole family knows about this. And we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. We're like, oh my gosh, it was the longest, like probably 35, 40 seconds of my life. Finally, she put the print down and looked down and saw this. Awesome. It was really awesome. And the light bulb moment went off. So Cooper was a dog that was supposed to come for a photo session and died a week before. Their favorite photo of Cooper was 900 kilobytes. 900 kilobytes. And they wanted a 24 by 36 inch painting over their sofa. There it is. So they had me come over to the house and photograph the dog collar and tags because they really wanted the tags to show in the photo. And I mean, personally, I wouldn't want that in the photo, but they really wanted that. They said that reminded them of him because it would always be jingling when he was running around the house. This is also Cooper. And they go to the beach a lot. And I thought, well, because that's a memory that they share a lot, I created this. And these are easy. These are not hard to do. Learning the software is even pretty easy. And then if you're somebody that likes to paint in Photoshop, you can brush stroke, this stuff in Photoshop and add some signature strokes to it and have a lab add more brush strokes to it. And you're going to save yourself so many hours and offer this amazing gift back to a pet parent. So there's another thing you can do with this, which you're going to laugh about. So Bree is one of my dogs. So Bree can smile when she wants to. And this was in the backyard. She was very happy and she was running around, and it was sunset time and it was golden hour. And I was like, oh gosh, this photo is so beautiful. But we have this location that every year these purple grape hyacinths bloom for about maybe 20 days if the weather cooperates. For 3 years in a row, I took Bree to these purple flowers, hoping to get that photo that a dog mom would love. And this is what I got. Every single time. She didn't want to be there. She wouldn't cooperate. Trying to shoot her, like, you can't really lay close enough. Like, she is standing in the bluebells, which is kind of not allowed, but there's paths where with larger animals and humans, you can sit them on a path in between the flowers. She's so tiny that I kind of did it really quick, thinking I could get a photo of her, but it didn't quite work out. She didn't want to be there. So this was probably the best shot I got out of 3 years of going there. But what I had was I had all these blank images, and I have dozens and dozens of the park, blank images of this park, which this particular batch of photos shows it with a really good bloom. This doesn't always happen. For instance, yesterday morning, like, this is a week that they would start blooming. And yesterday morning here, it was 28 degrees. So we've had years where these have started to come up and the weather's gotten bad, or it's gotten really windy and they just get damaged and there's not much to work with. So what I did is I actually did a training of a style, which was this park. And I trained Bree when she was having a good day. And I created that art piece that you guys saw when you registered for this seminar. Now, what if a client moved away and always wanted this photo in the bluebells? I could say, hey, send me as many cell phone photos you have of that dog. If you've done professional photography, let me have the photographer's name, and I can, see if they'd be willing to give me permission to train on the photos that you purchased from them. Like, I would never train without getting permission. But if the client only has cell phone photos, then you can do it. And what if they wanted a more photorealistic finish? And they're like, we don't really like that painted stuff, which I don't really get, but it does exist that people don't like it. There it is. This took me 5 minutes. And can I tell you that exact location, because I know where that tree is. That exact location is exactly where the sun sets. I don't know how the software knows this. This angle to lay on the ground with a wide angle lens, this is a 4-pound dog, okay? To try to get this, there's no place I can lay without damaging the bluebells, which is not allowed. And, anyway, so I created this, and I'm like, I have a new dog who's never been in the bluebells. And I'm like, I wonder if I should take him out there next week, or if I should just do it this way, because honestly, I have him trained. I have the location trained. So I'm having my own moral dilemma with this right now, because I could drive him out there, or I could just do it this way. But being able to offer this to people who maybe they're out of town during the bloom, I could say to them, well, I have those images of your dog from the studio. I can train your dog. I can put your dog in the bluebells, and you don't even have to meet me at the park. Murphy. Now, Murphy was one of our dogs that passed away. And in learning this software, I was having fun testing my husband, especially when I trained Murphy on a beach that we go to, where I could theoretically have this photo. This is 100% AI. This is my dog that I photographed on a beach that I also photographed. And I can tell you, as the pet owner of this dog, that is 100% my dog. Every time I show my husband one of these photos, he's like, is this real? Because, like, I know you're doing all this stuff now. And he can't tell. He cannot tell. But what's great about this is this was a place we always took him to. And did I ever get a shot this good on the beach? No, I really didn't. And the dog's pretty much had to be on leashes. And so you're dealing with a leash, you're dealing with like my dogs wear, they wear harnesses because of their necks. It's not good for the little dogs to have, like Pomeranians have neck issues with their trachea. So we always put them in harnesses. So, I don't have a shot like this, and I had always wanted a shot like this. This is Murphy trained, and I trained him from a bunch of images over the course of about 5 years. He did live to be 15. So, 15 and 1 month exactly. So, I trained images from pretty much age, I'm going to say probably around age 7 through age 14. Some of the photos I took of him when he was 14 were still pretty good. He walked every day with my husband. He was in great shape. Here's the beach. These were shot at like 6 a.m. This is South Beach in Martha's Vineyard. And again, like, being able to train, I saw that there was a wildlife photographer on here. I mean, it depends how you feel about this, but you could theoretically train an eagle that you photographed, train a beautiful location that you photographed, and put the eagle in that location if you are creating mixed media art, potentially for a gallery, meaning that you're going to then paint it in Photoshop. You're going to then paint the canvas after it's printed, and it's now a true mixed media piece. So instead of, compositing the hard way and cutting out an eagle in Photoshop, which I've done, and it's really hard to do, you could do it this way and save yourself a lot of time. And this is all about saving time, because especially pet owners, we only have so many years with the dogs. So getting time back, that's what this is really about. So Murphy passed away, and I needed to get my husband a walking buddy, which was Harley, named for Harley Davidson. And this is Harley. This was the first image I generated with a trained model of a dog, putting them in a scene. Now, this is a dog with very specific markings, and that's why I trained the software on him to see if it could pull it off. Every little detail of the color shifts and highlights, shadows in his fur came through in the software. So this is a more photorealistic image. We used this for a holiday invite to a party. When I first showed my husband this photo, he didn't know, I didn't tell him what I was doing. And I said, "What do you think of this photo?" And it was in November. And he goes, "When did you take that?" Because Harley's only a year old. So last winter, he would have been this little puppy. He goes, "We haven't had snow yet." I said, "I know." And he goes, "Oh, you composited it." And I said, "Nope." I said, "It's 100% AI, but it's trained on Harley." My husband was blown away. Now, this is a more artistic rendition of Harley, and that little pink dot on his nose, he still has that. He has one blue eye, one brown eye. He has that little black bit of fur coming down off of his face. Again, it picked all of this up, and I did this one in a little bit more of an artistic style. So a lot of times people are like, "Can you create a painting in Krea?" You can. People are like, I don't want to have to paint and learn lots and lots of things in Photoshop. I don't have time. So yes, you can paint in Krea. This is Brie again, and this is straight out of Krea. Straight out of Krea. The only thing I did in Photoshop was there was like a couple little dots on the floor. I upscaled it in Photoshop because I'm going to be using it. It's going to be in the Miller's booth at Texas School. And actually, it's going to be with, another character. So I decided in edit mode, let's see how good it can do with a painted rendition of Brie. And I added Frankie in the edit mode right on the platform. How insane is that? I mean, we're talking like this image, if I wanted to create this in Photoshop a year ago, would have probably taken me 40 hours. So I also started pushing the envelope to see how much of a really three-dimensional painting look I could get. And here it is. So I added the dog in the edit mode. I originally generated the image with the girl who's a client's daughter. And then I added the dog, and I was curious to see if it would pick up the painting technique, how it would place the dog with the grasses, and it worked pretty well. There was a couple little tricks I had to come up with in experimenting with it, but it worked, you know, really well for how quickly it was able to do this. So why you should do this? Let's talk about this for a minute. We're at the beginning of this whole new frontier of things we can offer clients. For those of you that follow me, you probably saw the video that I posted, Harley's Pool Party, where I created videos from stills and put them together as a story. Imagine offering a video story at the Christmas holidays of somebody's dog and child, or just the dog for the child, something like that. Or if you do Santa sessions, being able to train it on Santa and putting together a video of Santa with their child. Oh my goodness, could you imagine? So memorial pet sessions is the number one thing that I think this is so cool to do, being able to give that back to a client whose pet has passed away. Adding luxury painted wall art to your collection. So there's labs out there that will, you know, they will add brush strokes to your canvas. They will add colored paint and textured lacquer right to your canvas. So you could create your composite quickly in Krea, and then you could still paint it in Photoshop with your own signature look. Then you could send it off to the lab and have it, you know, painted further, creating a true like mixed media art piece. And then you could create art for other photographers, because there's people that are just not going to want to learn this, but they'll be happy to pay you to do it for them. So this is my website. We do have a class this coming Saturday, which is like, I guess, less than 48 hours away. This one here, this is the class for Saturday. This image here is all edited and composited inside of Krea. I started with Bree and the book, and then I added the giraffe. Then I added the girl. Then I added the penguins. Then I added the disapproving flamingo. And then I added the claws. And then I wanted to see if I could get Krea to actually do text. And ChatGPT says that Krea can't do text. Well, I proved ChatGPT wrong. Krea can do text. And I added a creepy crawly coming out of the box. And on the far camera left, I have another creepy crawly coming out of the bookshelf. So this image was, in my opinion, this I named it What Dreams Are Made Of, meaning, you know, as a child, like her favorite thing is her dog. Her second favorite thing is the giraffe. Her third favorite thing is the penguins and the flamingo. But and then maybe she reads before she goes to bed every night. But then there's always that, like, what goes bump in the night? What's under the bed? What's in the closet? So that was the story kind of behind this image that I created. And this is a client's daughter. I do have a discount code for class on Saturday. It's Zenfolio 20. You get $20 off. It's regularly $99. It's $79, and it is recorded. And any of my classes on my website, they come with recordings that don't expire. The discount code does expire, though, on midnight on April 12th. And on midnight on April 12th, the price is actually going up to $179 because of the amount of work that went into this class. So that's the end of the keynote that I wanted to show you. Why don't we take some questions, and then I'll show you a quick little demonstration inside of Krea. Fingers crossed that they're not updating something, but I'll show you a quick little demonstration inside Krea. What do you guys think?
Awesome.
Any questions?
There are
Yes.
a few questions. Did you want to do them before you hop into Krea, Judy, or would you like to do them?
Yeah, let's do a couple. Let's do a couple now, because depending on the question, it might influence how I demonstrate this, because we have a couple minutes.
Sure, that sounds good. So one question was about something that you could potentially show us here. They said, for a more photorealistic result, do you use the training module alone to separate dog fur from the background, or do you prepare the image with another program before you put it in Krea?
Say that again. The fur.
I think they're wondering if you use the training module to sort of separate the dog fur from the background. But I think that there's probably something you can demonstrate about how you create the models for the dogs here. Like maybe you can show us a model that you've created.
Right. So yeah. So if I go back to training, and I go to my training modules. So for instance, here, if I go, let's just say if I click on reuse data set so you can see this. Well, no, that's already a merged one. Let me just go down to, for instance, here's Murphy, okay? Or if I go down to Bree, where's Bree? Okay, so I did Bree twice. So you can do them more than once if you want to. But if I were to like click on reuse data set, it's going to load all the images I used. And side note, I did not remove the leash because it's a lot easier to remove it once in the final piece than to remove it 25 times for the training. And sometimes it doesn't even put the leash in the final result. So separating hair out from the background is no longer a problem because the software is reading her as a character, and then it's reading the background style, and it's doing all the blending for you. Okay. I think that's what the question was, correct?
That's how I understood it as well. But if it didn't quite answer your question, Robert Pace, then let us know in the chat and we can ask a follow-up, or you can re-ask a new question, either way.
Let me get out of this really quick and go to, because like I'm going to show you her in the chair. So this is a vintage chair. So now this is actually a chair I created in AI to begin with. And then these are the images that I trained it on to make a painterly looking module. Okay. So now if I go into image and I, let me grab Bree. I'm going to grab this one. There's Bree. So it's going to say add style. Don't let that confuse you. She's technically a character. They're using style here more generally than actually specific. So there she is, but she's trained as a character, meaning she's trained as like a character, like she's a character in this little show. Before I forget, I'm going to change this. Oh, actually, no, we're going to keep it there because of the chair. So we're going to keep the orientation vertical because of the chair. And then I'm going to grab the chair. So here's the chair. And that's a style as well, but that's a true style because it's the style of the background, if that makes sense. So if I say a painting, and I can't type, just so you know. It does seem to like breed specific. So if you say like a white Pomeranian, you don't want to say white dog, okay? A painting of a white Pomeranian sitting in a chair. That's simple. Now, as with any AI, when I show this live, I never know for sure what it's going to do. So let's just see what happens. And you'll see right now that this is at 80% and this is at 80%, okay? So of course it's going to give me like ridiculousness here, but this isn't so bad. So now if I pull down the chair and making the chair less important than the dog, you'll see how it starts to change a little bit. So when you play with this, and again, it changes every time you do it, you kind of have to play around with the settings until you get exactly what you want. This one's not so bad. So, but you see how it's doing this beautiful blending of the fur right into the, I mean, I actually really like this one. This is great. I mean, these little chairs that they sell at furniture stores, they make what's called miniatures. Some furniture stores that sell antique furniture have them. You can use them for pets, which is great. They have like little settees, little sofas. This is great. Like if you wanted to have something like this in your studio. Likewise, if you have a chair in your studio, you could actually train it on the chair. You could bring it in and create a painterly look like this of your chair in a setting, and then you could photograph the dog actually on the chair in your studio if you wanted to, but you don't need to. So answering that question, the fur blends right into the background. The one that I did that was in the slideshow, if I go to, let me go to my assets. The nice thing about this program is it lets you keep everything. Some programs, you don't get to keep everything. So here's Breathe. Here's the one that I really liked. These three were the ones that I really liked. So if I go to this one, that's, I think, the one I might have used. And this prompt was, here, let me copy this prompt and we'll redo it with this prompt and see what happens. But I liked this one, and I liked this one. Again, though, this one here, the chair's a little bit odd in size to the dog, and she looks a little scary there. This is really like picking up the true look of that photo of her. So let me get out of here and I'll go back to image. And this time I'm gonna, what's really cool is you can just click on this and it'll copy your prompts. So you can just paste that prompt that I got from the other image, just pull this back up a little bit and let's see what happens. And it's completely different than it was a few days ago. So this is how it works though with AI. You don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's in a good mood, sometimes it's in a bad mood. Now, I have found that sometimes the training of a subject is so strong that you can actually pull the subject down and keep the style in the background higher. And that's how then you get this more painterly look here. This is not bad. So let's do a little bit more. We'll pull it down a little bit and see if we get her to size in the chair, which is always the hardest part. Not too bad. I'm going to pull this up a little bit and I'm going to push this up a little higher. So it's doing a little bit different look today than it did the other day. Earlier today, where was that one that I liked? This one here. I would say this is probably one of my favorites, or even this one's kind of cute. Even this one's kind of cute. So the nice thing is you can put a heart on an image that you really like so you can find it later. That one's even really cute too with her. Now, if you wanted her, like I said in the presentation, if you wanted her more photorealistic and not painterly, then you could just say, white Pomeranian. You can use the word fluffy too. It seems like the software likes the word fluffy, but a white Pomeranian in a field of grape hyacinths, which is what those actually are, those flowers.
Judy, while you're typing that in, there are also just a couple questions about like when you're putting in a background, does it help to have like a limited or less busy background with your training images, or does that not impact anything when you're training?
It does make a difference, and I can show you because I trained Harley early on, and he was sitting in leaves. So here she is. So see, it only gave me a leash in one of them. This one, oh my gosh, I love that image. That was my dream image. That's what I wanted like 3 years ago, and I gave up. I'm really excited about that image. That is her. So as a mom, that image makes me really happy. So yeah, so if I, for instance, if I said, I'm going to take the word white out. Now, it might not work because they've improved the software so much, but what it used to do, let me just click out of these and grab Harley. There was a style that I did of Harley early on. Let me find it. It's probably this one. He was in a car seat. And it kept bringing in this chair. Let me just go to this one. There was one where it kept adding things that were in the background. So it might not do it anymore because it's improved so much, but let's just see what happens. And I'll grab the flowers again, just to keep it simple. And I'm going to pull this down and keep Harley up pretty high. By having this higher, the higher that percentage is, it's going to pull in more of the background. So ideally, in a perfect world, if you were photographing a dog specifically to do this, you could do one of two things. You could, if they're going to be in a field anyway, I would photograph them in a big grassy area that's kind of all green, so that you have that in one perspective, that neutral color, that solid color in the background. Or B, in the studio on Thunder Gray Seamless. So here's Harley. And this training, the reason he looks so weird is I did a training with him that was picking up images from age 6 months through 10 months. So it's not a consistent age. So you don't want to train it if you have a dog that's young. You want to wait till the dog, you want to train it on the dog at all the same kind of age, because as puppies grow so quickly, so for instance, if I get rid of this one and then I grab the better one of him, and I named it the best Harley, which now I have photos of him in the studio that I would like to retrain because I shot him in the studio. So Harley, the best Harley. So the best Harley, he was now an adult. And so these are all of an adult version of Harley, not a puppy that's growing. So let's see if it does a better job. Yep. So now it looks just like him. So that was the one mistake I made early on, is I was training him at weird ages. And so it took like a 6-month-old dog and an 8-month-old dog, and it mixed it together. But I'd like to point out that it gets the eye color correct. It gets the this black spot correct. This dent in his white blaze, it gets it correct every time. And I would say, if I demonstrate on just a plain white dog, people are like, oh, it's just a plain white dog, or, oh, it's a golden retriever. That's easy. This is not easy. And the fact that it's training this well on a tricky dog, and again, look at the beautiful depth of field that it gave this, and the fur. I mean, I couldn't do this very quickly in Photoshop, and I'm pretty good at Photoshop. So any other questions?
Yeah, there were a few more. Next, because we're looking at sort of the trainings, there was a question about, like, what do you need to train a style? Like, do you have to have a sample of that style first, or is there another way to go about that?
So in this case, the style is just the field. So lots of photos of this field that I took. If you wanted if you wanted a painterly look, what you could do is you could take your field and then kind of retrain your field. And so Krea has they have here's all, okay? They have their own styles mixed in. So what you can do is you can go through, let me find just a Krea style to show you. It mixes your own in there. Let me just grab something like, let me try this one. This one's a little bit more of an illustration. So now I'm applying this illustrative look to my bluebells. So I'm going to push the bluebells up to 80, and I'm going to pull this down to about 50 just to see what it does. So it's adding the aspect ratio, like the way that other image was shot. Here's the field. So it's stretching it out. You could say, let me just push this up a little bit and pull this down. Let me just see what that does. It's a lot of trial and error. This is kind of pretty. It's not what that field looks like anymore. There's also a style that always gives it a little bit of a zing. And I am giving styles with my class on Saturday. They're actually on the website. You get them with the class. So you get this romantic cottage style. You get, I believe, this lush forest landscape one. Let me click on the romantic one and see if this helps the bluebell field look more like a painting. Let's see what it does. I'll push this up a little bit. So it's still pretty photorealistic here. If you're running into that problem, then you have to add additional prompts. There is a pinned prompt that I love. This thick impasto is a pretty strong painting prompt, and that's a Krea prompt. It's pretty strong, so I usually pull it down. So now it's starting to look a little bit more painted. Do you see that? The other thing is when you take these final composites into the enhance mode, it'll add additional things to it that you can make it more painterly. They have like a oil paint filter. They have one that's just called like painting, which is more like this look, illustrative, but they have an oil paint filter. And then they have a default filter, which is what I used to use back in the olden days when I was just using it to clean up stuff that was not good enough. So if I pull this one down and I now this one's below the impasto, it should make it more painterly. So yeah, it's starting to give it that brushstroke look that you can see. So if I were to take off this one and just apply the oil paint, now it's just the two of them. So it's fighting a photorealistic image with a truly painted technique. So this is where you have to kind of play with it a little bit. And when you're looking at, what to purchase as far as a plan, you could start with the second plan. The basic plan, there's a free plan. You can't do most of this stuff with the free plan. But the next plan up, you can then start playing with it, and then you can a la carte by compute minutes, which is kind of nice because they sell them a la carte so that you can then spread them out over time. They give you 90 days when you buy stuff a la carte. You can add up to 5 styles when you're mixing something together too. So let me just grab one or two more to show you how this works. This is, again, this is another one that I made. I'll grab that one.
Judy, while you're doing that, there was a question in the chat about there was someone that has actually already purchased the class for Saturday. And I think they were wondering if there was a way that they could still apply that discount from attending the webinar, even though they've already purchased it.
Yeah, have them reach out to me after this seminar. Yeah, we'll talk then.
Perfect. I will send them your name too, so you can confirm who they are. And there were 2 other questions. If you want to show us this first, and then I can hit those.
Yeah. So see what it's doing right now. It's a little stuck. This is what's been happening today because they're updating a few things. So they know I'm teaching a class on Saturday. So I said, you got to get this all done. But they added a new video model that's insane. Let me just cancel that one and do it again.
Maybe while it's stuck, the other question was about size, actually. So someone was asking, Ken said, how large can you print with the painting that you can create? And another person asked specifically, like, can you go to like 24 by 36 or larger?
So I'll show you. So here's one. Let's say I like this one. This looks like a rough painting of the field. Okay. So the workflow right now, and the engineers know that those of us that are using this don't like this current workflow. So know that we're helping them along the way. I always have to put a heart on something I like so that when I go back to my assets, I can find it later because it keeps everything, which is great because we like to hoard our images, right? But you go into enhance. And so when it brings it into enhance, this is where it's going to upscale it. So if you upscale it, you can upscale it to 4,000 pixels on 4,096 on the long side. Inside of here, if I go down here and I say oil painting, we still want our resemblance pretty high so that it still looks like our field. But because there's no humans or dogs in this image, I don't need to push this up all the way. And then I'm going to just pull this back to about 40%. And clarity wise, I'm going to just pull this back to 12. And these are just settings that I've learned over time. I've been using this 16 months now. This may or may not work. Like I said, they're doing an update right now. So let's see what happens. Oh, it's working. Yay. Any other questions while it's cooking? So what I would say is that what I do is with these 4,000 wide images is then you can even upscale that further than with either Topaz Gigapixel, or I've been actually using under neuro filters in Photoshop. I've been using super zoom and I'm really happy with it. It's just it's quicker than having to go out into Topaz and come back in. So if you've never used super zoom, I highly recommend giving it a try. So here's before and here's after. Now this has a lot of like illustrative painting look to it, so that's why it's maintaining that look. Okay. Here's Bree from the slideshow. So there's the one that was straight out of Krea, and then here's the enhanced version of this that's 4,000 pixels. Here's my little girl, okay, from yesterday. See how it just takes that AI fuzziness and it just crisps it up and enhances the brush strokes. If I go down through here, here is Bree and Frankie on the chair. Okay, so there's before and there's after. It cleans it up, it adds a little more detail, and it makes it that larger size. I mean, 4,000 on the long side is pretty good. They do come in at 72 DPI. Don't let that scare you. They are coming in as PNGs as well. So once I've printed 24 by 36 from these images, and they're good. They really are. So, if you're nervous about that, you could always do a test print just to kind of put your mind at ease before you spend a lot of money with a lab that charges a pretty hefty fee for a painted canvas. Any other questions?
Yep, I think the last one, which is great since we're pretty much at the time, is and I partially answered this from what I have seen, but wondering if you've seen some other examples, Judy. Raina says, have we seen heavy AI composites being popular outside of pet photography? She said, I think I've only seen it in kids' portraits and animals. I said I've seen it in adults, like sort of in the cosplay industry, but wondering if you've also seen it used for other things outside of pets and children.
Actually, yeah, a lot of my friends are doing their new headshots this way because they have photos of themselves either that they did as trigger, timed or trigger in the studio. So they took some, basic photos of themselves in the studio or whatever, or they have cell phone photos and they've gone into this to make an amazing new headshot of themselves. I've seen, one of the things I'm currently doing is I'm restoring a painting that had fire damage. So there was a cell phone photo of the painting, and I'm going to restore the painting from the cell phone photo for the family because it was a painting their grandmother did. So there's no copyright, concerns, but it had tons of sentimental value. Landscape photographers or people that create fine art for your museums, if you have a training like of the beach and you have a training of a crane, you could put the crane on the beach. You could kind of compose them together. So maybe you got a crane walking on the beach or a I don't know, some kind of little bird, little seashore birds. You might have this really great photo, but you don't like the actual beach, and you have photos of a beach you do like. You could then put the bird right on the beach you do like to create a composite before you would go further with the image. And for people, it does work. I did, if I go to assets, I did a client's, so I did a client's child. So this is the rough one before it was enhanced, and this looks 100% like their kid. And yes, I photographed the lion. So it was a photo I had of the lion. So you can do this with kids. It's a little harder. It's a little trickier. I am covering that on Saturday. But yeah, so hopefully that answers. This was another one that I did. Like, imagine doing this for, now the foot's a little messed up, but I was able to fix that. But imagine being able to do something like this for a kid's bedroom. I mean, oh my goodness. It's just magical. And again, this would take so much time. And this is a bird that what I did was I trained all kinds of different birds. They weren't all the same. And then I even put ice skates on Brie. So I put ice skates on Brie, which was kind of hysterical. So yeah, you can do just about anything with this. I mean, I haven't tampered with, product photography. I did product photography in the 1980s, but apparently this is really big for product photography. So, any other questions?
I think that was all of them, but I didn't even think of product photography, Judy. Like, that's such a brilliant idea. Of course, that would be so easy.
Well, yeah, you are photographing like a Scotch bottle for, one of the Scotch manufacturers, and you're in the US and they're obviously in Scotland, and they're like, well, we want it sitting on a rock on the Isle of Skye overlooking, that vast valley, that beautiful, scene from the Isle of Skye that you always see. Right. And, I mean, think about what a manufacturer, what it would cost them to have their photographer come and go to the Isle of Skye and get the perfect lighting to photograph the bottle there. And now you could do it right here because, you could, they could get you images of the location they want. And then you would just take those images and train them and then just photograph the bottle in the studio. The biggest trick I can say is when you photograph something in the studio, to do this, you do not want all kinds of beautiful, fancy studio lighting. You want it to be flat lit, like you shot it outside on a cloudy day. And that tends to work the best out of everything I've tried. So if you start adding all kinds of tricky lighting, it kind of messes things up a bit, at least right now. So.
Awesome. Well, Judy, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing all of these amazing examples. We hope that everybody that came today enjoyed our webinar, and we hope that you will take Judy up on her amazing class happening this Saturday. And that is not the only one. Judy has a ton of amazing courses on her website, so please be sure to check those out. But we definitely hope that you can join her on Saturday. You can watch your inbox. If you missed any part of this webinar, watch your inbox. You will get a recording of today's webinar, and we hope to see you for our next webinar. Thanks so much for coming, everyone.